I've got you there, haven't I?
Yep.
Just move that mic a little bit closer to your mouth, and remember that if the tape's working, everything stays on the tape. So don't sort of say something like, we're going to crash. So have we flown over the airport?
Yes.
Okay, so let's get the speed back under control. So you really want to get back to 200 knots, so pull them all the way back to idle. That's it. And then I think probably somewhere between 1,500 and 2,000 feet. Hold us there while we do the turn. So get ready to catch that. That's pretty steep at the moment. That's 2,000 feet a minute. So give it a bit more. Actually on the pitch, pull the nose up. And again, look out the window until you see it starting to come back towards level. Alright, good. Don't worry about thrust yet. We're still doing 270 knots. In fact, for now, we've got enough on our plate. We'll actually go back to auto throttle now. That was more of a case of trying to practice the trimming across the ditch. So it's any idea, we should have timed our outbound leg. Any idea how long since you went over the airport? More than like a minute and a half?
Probably only a minute and a half.
Okay, we'll give it another.
I was thinking we probably need to get to the end of the bay.
And you're going to go left or right?
I'm going to go left.
Cool.
I've deliberately been a little bit east.
Yep.
After the airport.
Nice one. Yeah, okay. Okay, just catch the altitude around. Certainly, you don't want to probably go too much under 2,000 until we're through the turn. Speed, that's my bad. I need to turn on the speed mode. Good. I'm going to set up maximum auto brakes. Just give it. I'm assuming it's going to end badly. And I'll arm the speed brakes as well. So we've got everything. We've got everything set.
There's Killicranky.
Yeah, it's quite good with this how well the coastline gets mapped. All the little bays and inlets and everything, because they come off the actual maps. They're all pretty good.
All right.
Around we go.
Around we go.
While you're doing that, I'm going to start to bring flaps out and just slow us down a little bit. Flaps to 1 and speed back to about 190 knots. Keep the nose up a bit more. One of the reasons we try and keep the nose up is you might struggle to make out the runway if you get too low. Yep. The higher you stay, the more chance you've got of being able to spot it.
Yep.
And then start your final descent. Alright, that's pretty good. We're coming back to flaps 1 speed. I'll go to the next set, which is flaps 5, and about 180 knots. Now, I think we should be coming around to a heading of about, no, I don't know actually. I thought it was 05, which means it would have been a heading of 230, but that's not going to be it. Because I don't care about headings, I know where it is, it's down there.
Yep.
I'll find it.
There it is.
You got a visual on it?
Yep.
Well done. Oh yeah, I think I've got it. Yep, I've got you. Just leaning to the right a bit. Yep, okay, good. So we've definitely got plenty of distance, that's fine. We've got a terrain map on, why not? There we go. Alright, well, to help us make sure we're nicely set, I'm going to put the gear down. Flaps to 15 and get us a bit slower. So the only thing we've got left to do is go full flaps once you start your final descent.
And the space shuttle type parachute on the back if it's too short.
No, it'll be fine. It may not be fine.
It'll be fine.
It may not be fine.
It is long.
Is it?
Yeah.
You keep flying. I'll try and have one last look to see if I can find out the actual distance on it. Yeah. Yeah, it's heaps. It's 5,000 feet.
That's what I'm saying.
I'm not even going to go. I'm going back to auto brake 3. I'm going to do a landing calculation.
That's what I said. I've been in there. It's
Yeah,
a long runway.
I don't know what I was panicking about. I'm not watching, so I presume you've got all that under control.
Yeah.
Runway 14. That's 59 tons. Auto brake 3. Okay, so at this stage I reckon we're starting to feel just a bit high, so just start to let the nose drop forward and I'll get us to flaps 30 and a final landing speed of 145 knots. And also don't forget that you need to kill the throttles on this one. One hand on the throttles, kill the button, about 50 feet off the ground. Or do you want me to do it?
No, well,
You'll be fine.
just remind me.
Yeah, I will. Don't hit that hill.
No, I'm thinking about
There's a tower there.
the tower. We're going to clip the tower on the way down.
According to this, the tower is 400 feet.
We're still at 1,000.
I reckon, I can't be sure, but I reckon it's almost a bit to your right based on that whole setup, but you'll figure it out because I can't tell you from here.
What do you mean, a bit to my right?
As in, I reckon the runway, you might need to move a bit to your right
To where
to come over my side.
That's
just a
right,
touch.
just going.
Right,
yeah,
okay, cool. Speed's good, descent rate's good.
over the tower.
Yep. Gears down, flaps 30, auto brake 3, speed brake armed. I reckon if anything just a touch higher, just let that nose start to point down the hill a bit more. Nice view of the bay here.
Yeah, I'm really not looking at the bay.
Alright. You'll be sort of good stuff.
There we go.
Looking good. Maybe a tiny kick to the right, but main thing is don't pull away. Let it keep just dropping at that constant rate.
Yep.
The worst thing is to have to float down here. Up a little there now. With one hand on the throttles, ready to press the button. So you press the button now, and then back to idle. That's it. Pull the nose up. Beautiful. Reverses go on, half on first, and then all away. That's it. And we'll see if the auto brakes do their job. If they don't, this is a gravel runway.
It shouldn't be, it's sealed.
According to this looks, may not be gravel, it may just be a different type of tarmac. Knots, yep, reverses down. This is where you can then give the brakes a little bit of a tap. Which, that's it, you've done. That's got manual control. Put the reverses back down. Give the throttles a little nudge to clear the speed brake. That's it, that's enough, just enough to move them. That's it. And you are pretty much welcome to Flinders Island. That was good. That was good. And quite enjoyable.
That was fun.
Yeah. It's like that one's a different material, no, doesn't it?
No. The airport's way up there.
Yeah, no, you've got to go in the long way, but no problem. Alright, we don't want to waste our time taxiing that because that's boring by comparison. Righto, next leg. I presume you're happy to get going. You're not feeling sick or anything?
I'm settled in for the day.
Excellent. Good. That's what I always like to ask because, you know, make sure people aren't actually feeling queasy or sick or anything like that. But, so, next leg. I reckon, have you got any particular preference?
No.
Let's do the old Hong Kong because that always looks good.
Oh, through the buildings?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, have a quick run over there. It's only a short one too. That's the new airport in Hong Kong. Good. Activate that.
going from the new one to
We'll
the
go
old one?
from the new one across to the old
The old
one.
one,
Yeah, because the old one's only about I'd say about 10 or 12 miles or something. It's not far at all. You'll see a hill. The hill line comes up here in a bit. Here it comes. And we basically just cross this hill line.
Yeah.
And then track this same heading but on the other side of the hills. And that takes us into the city. And then it's kind of the sweeping right turn over the city to land. The runway actually is built out in the bay. So in the middle of Hong Kong City there's the bay and there's a fairly thin strip of land which is the runway protruding out into the water.
Which would have been like the first time I went in there.
Yeah.
I'd never been in the new one.
Yeah, 88 I think.
I was way before that when I went
Yeah,
in.
that was when they closed it I think.
Yeah.
I think it was in the late 80s.
I've never been in the new one.
I'm going to need to put some fuel in. We're running out of fuel. 2800 on the left, 2800 on the right. Trim, set that back to around about 5 for takeoff. Flaps need to go back to 5. And we'll use the auto throttle for this one because it's a bit busy. The bit we're only going to go up to about 2,000 feet.
Yeah.
Why are flaps moving? There we go. Flaps to 5. Normally all we need to check is flaps and stabiliser trim.
Yeah.
That's all good. So all you're going to do, same as before, take off. We'll do the toga button this time.
Yeah.
Climb up to about 1,000 feet. And then as you get through 1,000 feet, make a right turn and cross this hill line.
Yep.
So it's only quite a gentle turn, about a 20-degree right-hand turn.
Yep.
We go over the water on the other side, turn left, we'll fly into the city. That's all there is to it. Let's go. So 40%. Good. And then when they're stable, toga. Perfect.
You only do the 2 takeoffs. You just get the sensitivity of how sensitive the pedal is. It's not like the first time now. You don't have to think about it.
It really is. A couple of flights.
You know where you're going. You know where the
makes a huge
the tolerance.
Rotate. Yeah, the takeoffs get smoother and everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
A couple of. There you go. Positive rate. Gear up. And we're only going to go to about 190 knots for this leg. We don't even get the flaps all the way up because we start down again so soon after. That's flaps to 1. So just wait till you're through 1,000 feet. That's just enough to just get us over these hills,
and
then make the right-hand turn.
Yeah. Clearing 1,000 now.
Yep, over again. That's about all it needs. That's enough just to track us across.
Okay. So
you see the buildings in the far side? If you aim at those, and then once we get over the water, we make the left turn, but keep the nose up for a bit.
Yeah. Well, I was trying for the gap.
I went over these. Well, good idea because I got a ground warning the other day going over here with somebody, and you might get one. Yeah, you will. That'll be right. Cool. A terrain warning is what you should get.
Pull up.
Yeah. What are you doing?
1,200 feet.
We're definitely below this one.
I'm not worried about that one.
No, we're above this one.
We're above this one. I'm not going over the gap.
And we've got good visibility.
1,200 feet.
There we go. We're doing it easy.
At the top of those trees.
Piece of cake. And so that's the main city down there.
Yep.
So we just sort of make a gentle left and stay on the left-hand edge of the buildings until we make the final right-hand turn to go in and land. So start turning left even now.
So where is the runway come out?
It's in the middle of the city, so you won't be able to see it for right.
That's right.
Take us up another 500 feet, so we've got a bit of visibility to get us up to about 2,000.
Oh, baby.
I'll set auto brakes to 2. It's not too bad in here. And speed brake can be armed again. Yeah, that's pretty good. Start to roll wings level there. Perfect. can see the bay of water sort of in the middle of the city. It comes in from out on the coast.
Yep.
It's a bit hard to make a runway from here, but that's where you're kind of going to be looking in due course.
Oh, I got it.
Yeah, it's a little thin strip that sort of pokes out into the middle of the bay. And if you keep your eyes out as we get closer, you'll actually see some bright white lights on the ground that curve around the corner. They're called the lead-in lights.
Okay.
If you see them, you can follow them sort of in, and they give you a curved approach
Give you
that
a guide.
takes you into the runway. Alright, so we hold this altitude, 1900 is great. We'll hold that for another mile. In fact, that's enough. I'll start to slow us down. So flaps to 5, and you can just start a gentle descent already. Just let the nose sort of fall forward. So you can see the runway now.
Yeah,
you've got a good view on it. So actually we do need a descent, so start to let it come down. I'll let us get a bit high there. And just come to the right a bit. I can see those bright lights on the ground out there.
You're doing better than me.
Okay, yeah, they're once you see them, they're easy, but they're hard to pick up. They're lying flat across the ground. There's about 5 bright white ones in a row.
I'm seeing what you're saying.
Okay, this is all fine. Can you see the trees on the ground on my side?
Yeah.
There's some little white lights that go through the trees.
I got them now.
That's the curving around the corner.
Now I see.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. I was looking in the wrong place.
Yep.
Now I've got them.
Okay. We are fully configured for landing. We just kind of follow those lights round. We're just a touch high, so just let the nose fall over a little bit more.
Wonder how they never had a major prank here, is it? No?
Yeah.
Look at a few buildings.
That's the checkerboard thing on the hill in the trees there, that red and white checkerboard. That's what they built here to help the pilots make sure they're in the right spot. This is actually called the checkerboard approach because of that. Now the real trick to this is to just time your turn.
Yeah.
And see, you've got 2 red lights on the side of the runway.
Yep.
That's good. That means you're on perfect profile. If you see 3 red lights, it means you're a bit low. Just like that. So just tease it up.
Just about to tease it up.
Yep, and around you go. Speed brake is armed. We are good to go. And here's the buildings you get close to.
Yeah, wave to them.
Yeah, washing lines. Alright, it'll just start to go back to 2 reds in a minute. You'll just need to be ready to push the nose over again. Here we go. Otherwise we'll get a bit high. That's it. And your final line up.
Oops.
We try and land down where the lights are. That's the correct place to touch down. Beautiful. That's it. Feet on the pedals for steering. Nice. That's great for a first run at that.
Not easy.
No. And actually, even I can sit there and sometimes do 5 or 6 laps around there and find that only 3 of them are half decent. Alright, reverses down.
Get lost.
Beautiful. Now, what I want to show you now is to actually give you a bit of a sense of how they would fly one of these things in the real world out of one of the major airports, like actually using the flight director system.
Yeah.
So what we'll do is we'll do a departure out of Melbourne, and we'll sort of fly out of Melbourne as if we're heading up to Sydney, and then we'll turn around and come back and land at Melbourne once we get sort of out of the main area. But we'll turn on a few different systems for this one. So, let's first of all come on.
Dim sim while we're in.
Sorry?
Get a dim sim while we're in.
I'm hungry actually, that's a good idea. Come on. Spent my whole life waiting for computers. Okay. And we will put ourselves on the southerly runway, which is pretty common in Melbourne to have a prevailing southerly. Now, are you familiar with the term flight director? Okay, so these are them, D flight directors on.
Yeah.
And what's going to happen is, regardless of whether you're using this autopilot, which is a fairly basic one where you just dial in headings and altitudes,
Yeah.
or whether you're using this computer, which can also plot routes both laterally and vertically,
Yeah.
this is the more advanced mode. At the end of the day, the flight director will prompt you on where to fly. So if I tell you I want to fly a certain path, what you're going to see on the screen in front of you, that blue screen, you're going to see these two pink lines. They're like a crosshair in a gun.
Yep.
And what happens is they'll move around, prompting you where to go.
Okay.
And this is what they would do if they were leaving Melbourne today on this runway.
Yeah.
They'd have this flight director on, they'd take off down the runway, and as they climb and turn, the pilot will just be following this.
Yep.
And of course he can do it in total zero visibility.
Yep.
This is part of the whole instrument kind of system. So I'm going to go... Yep.
Where do the parameters for the flight director come from?
Right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the computer here and tell it we're currently in Melbourne, and I'm going to pretend for now that we're going to Sydney. And one of the main things is when they leave an airport, they can't just fly north.
No.
They have to follow a certain prescribed path, or what they call a SID, or a departure route.
Yep.
So I go into my departures page and say I'm departing out of Melbourne. I'm on runway 16, and depending on where I'm going, the pilots have the charts and know which route they're going to fly, although air traffic gives them to it. To get to Sydney, it's the Docell 8 departure. The minute I do it, you watch this display in front of you. See that white dotted line?
Okay.
That's the pre-programmed route out of Melbourne.
Out of Melbourne.
As soon as I say execute, that dotted line will go hard.
Yes.
That's what we're going to follow.
Yes.
And that's what the flight
That's
director
what the
is going
flight
to prompt
director
you to
will
follow.
prompt me to follow.
So,
Yeah, no, I understand fully.
I'm telling the computer we only want to initially go to 5,000 feet.
Right.
My initial heading is runway heading, although that doesn't matter so much. I'm going to turn on the auto throttle like we have been. So when you first rotate, you'll still go to about that 15 degrees, but what you're going to see is the pink cross telling you exactly where it thinks you need to be.
Yeah.
And if you follow it, we're going to make a right-hand U-turn, coming back out and heading north towards Sydney.
Yeah.
That's pretty much, as long as I set the flaps right, set the trim right, that's pretty much all you need to know.
Oh, I know where we are.
The terminal down there.
Yeah. The firefighting over there.
Yep, firefighters on that runway there. We'll actually see them if you look out the window on the way down. You see the little yellow truck there. And normally you'd be zoomed into 5 miles for this, so you've got quite a close-up view. You can even see the runway that we're in the middle of here. I'd normally be zoomed out to 10 miles. That's all, let's go. We'll see how it works.
See how it works.
40%, beautiful. Stable. In one toga. My bad, the flaps aren't set.
You did put the flaps.
I thought I did, but they're not reading the first time. There we go, they're on the way up. I just wanted to show you the warning system. Sure.
New start.
80 knots, cross check. Rotate.
V1.
Beautiful. They call it putting the box on the cross.
Yeah.
Okay, positive rate, gear up. Now see how you're only a little bit above it, but already our speed's dropping quite a lot? That's because you're above the flight director. So give it a decent push, get back on. And once you do that, we'll start to get a bit of our speed back.
Yeah, it wanted me to...
Oh, my bad.
They wanted me to...
Okay. Good, here it goes.
I'm saying they wanted me to climb a lot steeper than we had been.
Yeah, that's a normal toga profile. Quite a steep profile to take off. But it changes after you get to 1,000 feet.
Feet, let's come back.
Okay, here we go. So we're just coming up past flaps 1 speed here. So that little green number 1.
Yep.
That's my cue, although we're not, we're still, what are we still, VNet has an arm, that's the old. Okay, let me set the speed for now. You'll see it's going to go to the right in a minute still.
Here we go. Pretty similar to
through, flaps 1 speed.
Using the same system to land.
Yeah, in fact this is the system we'll use to land here. We'll do it by hand, but we'll have that flight director helping us track the ILS in for landing.
Yeah, well, that's what I've done on the A320 with the ILS.
Yep.
Come in and
And we'll do exactly the same thing. Okay, good, speed's coming up. I'm going to try VNav again. Why is VNav?
Flying to somewhere in Switzerland in amongst the hills at night, clouds, and like, well, I hope it's right.
Yep. There we go. My bad, shortcutting all the procedures.
No?
I didn't do quite a good enough job of setting it up, so we got a bit messy, but it's
I haven't noticed. I've just been doing the cross.
and it's working. Yeah, the cross is doing the right thing. It's just your co-pilot that's not.
Not performing.
Now this is where, for example, you can see we're going to fly out and do this circuit, but what they look for is shortcuts. So, for example, if air traffic came on and said you can now fly direct to this place called Chimu,
Yeah.
I can go to the computer and say I want to go. Oh, we've just caught it now. Anyway, it's all right. It's just taking you around there. We can tell the computer we want to skip legs, and it will take us to the next leg and plot a direct route to get you there. Alright, now we're only going to. I've told it to limit it to 10,000. So you'll find as we get towards 10,000, that pink line will head down.
Yep.
And try and get you to
Level off.
And we should. There's all the freeways. We should in a minute actually see the airport coming back into view out my window. Right there. Yep. Okay, here it goes. So just follow it down and get us down to 1,000, and then we'll get things cleaned up a bit. So you can see the 4 runways down there.
Yeah,
Well, you can't now, it's just gone. We're going to land on the southerly, so we're going to head out that way, turn around and come back in to land on the same runway we took off on. Alright, so once you've got it nicely settled over the cross, we'll turn on the autopilot for a minute. Alright, that'll do. Autopilot on. Let go of the yoke. Can't put the autopilot on while you've got a lot of pressure on the yoke.
Yeah.
It has to wait for you to have got rid of the pressure before it'll take over. So that's literally what they would do. They'd have that route programmed.
Yeah.
The guy in that seat, or who's flying, could be me, will follow that route all the way out, and pretty much all the way up to Sydney, unless they get vectors from air traffic, which can happen. Like at the moment, we're heading to a place called Chimu.
Yeah.
Let's say there's some traffic coming in the way.
Yeah.
They might say, we're currently flying a heading of, let me line it up, you line up that pink dotted line with your current route, which is good practice. We're currently flying a heading of 0 and 1. They might say, turn left, fly heading 330 degrees.
Yeah.
So set the heading to 330 and then turn left the other way.
Going the other way.
And then go into heading select mode.
I don't know why, just my brain didn't work. That one?
Yep. Press it a bit harder. That's it. And we'll immediately break away from that pre-plotted route and just start flying in heading mode.
Yep.
So we're going to basically head out this way. Now, what I want to do is set up an ILS approach to go back into Melbourne.
Yep.
So if you go to your departures and arrivals button here.
That one?
Yep. And we want to do an arrival back into Melbourne, so the top one. And we want to do the ILS for 416, so actually the very top one will do. And execute that. And what that's going to do is, the computer still thinks we're going all the way out here, but it's also got a new section of instructions starting from this place.
Yep.
So if I tell it we want to go back to here, I bring this right up to the top. Hang on, let me get rid of that message. And you watch what happens on my display or yours. It's now going to basically tell us to turn around and go back to this point to start our approach into Melbourne. So what we want to do is, for now, let's just take some manual control and go lower. So tell it we want to go down to 4,000 feet and hit the level change button, which will tell us we want to change our level. Yep. So throttles come back to idle. That's a normal descent. Yep. They tend to like to descend with no thrust. And as soon as we get just a little bit further out, we can turn around and head back into runway 16. The other thing is setting up the ILS. So if you hit this init ref button here on the computer, it now, because you've told it you want to land in Melbourne, it tells you what your flaps and speeds are. So flaps 30, 141 knots. It also tells you what the frequency for the ILS is. So you dial it in here, 109.7. The top dial does the big numbers, so 70, and the bottom dial does the big numbers, 109. So set that one to 109, and then the top one to 70. Not 7, not 0,
70.
70, yeah, sorry, 70. Yep. Good. Transfer it across. Yep. Perfect. And if things go well, here it is. It's come up here and told you that it's identified a thing called IMS, India Mike Sierra, which agrees with this one here. So that tells us we've locked into the right frequency on the ground.
Yep.
And the runway heading is 161. So you set that here. And I'll kind of do the same. Quick measure. And what all that's doing is setting up the right frequency so we can lock in on the ILS. So in a minute we're going to tell the computer to do a U-turn.
Yep.
Lock in on that localizer frequency.
Yep.
And it should just track us down the runway. When we want to descend, we'll lock in on the approach mode, which actually is the one that will track us down to the ground. Yep. So let's have a heading back to Melbourne. So I don't know, right turn about a U-turn, about I don't know, about 170.
I was going to say be 180 and 170.
Yeah, so give or take. A little bit more actually, because we want to do more than a U-turn, so we head back towards. You see this pink line here? Yeah. We kind of want it to be heading back in towards the green line, which is the runway heading. Okay. So that'll work out perfectly. We're currently 22 miles from the airport, which is good. And ultimately, when we're about 10 miles out, we want to be down at around that 3,000 feet, and we're heading down to 4 now. Yep. So we're going to be gold. What we'll do is we'll kind of let it get lined up so that it's flying the heading, and then we'll turn off the autopilot, and if you just keep following the flight director, it should take you pretty much all the way down to touchdown. I reckon we need to go around probably a bit more to the left yet. So take it another, I don't know, another 30 degrees almost. That's more like it. And even from this far out, if you arm the localizer, press that button. That one? Yep. What the computer does is it comes up here and says you're flying in heading select mode. So it's flying this heading. Yeah. It's ready. When it gets close enough to intercept that runway course, it'll swap it and start to turn right and track onto the runway. And you can see where we're going here now. We're kind of tracking. We're going to track across here. Yep. This is the runway heading here.
Section there.
Yep. And it's going to make a right turn and kind of follow that path. Yep. Down to land. We should control our speed too, bring it back to about 240 knots. Okay, cool. The other thing that's worth noting with this mode is every time we do something, the flight director, the pink lines still move. Yep. So the autopilot is actually only following the pink cross. So the autopilot's doing what you do.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not a very intelligent system. All of this and this computer, they're the clever ones because they tell the flight director, or the flight director tells the autopilot what to do. Yeah. And the autopilot is literally the same as a human being. It kind of just goes left, right, up and down. Yeah. We should get visual with the abort before too long. This is the other part of this approach that's kind of interesting is now, because it's identified the localizer here, these pink diamonds, that's the left and right lateral guidance. That pink diamond tells me that the runway's off to our left, and this pink diamond is our vertical guidance. And so this tells me we're currently underneath our glide slope. Okay. As we come in closer and want to start descending, this pink diamond here should be right down here on our horizon line. And then as we descend, we'll be following that, keeping us at this 800 feet per minute descent. Everything else we can set the auto brake. We only need about 1 in Melbourne because it's a long runway. We've still got that arm. When did I arm that? Doesn't matter. It can stay armed. And we are 15 miles to go. There it goes. So it's just changed into mode. It's caught the localizer. And at that point, you can arm the approach mode. Even though we're not quite ready to descend yet, if you arm the approach mode, you'll now see the same thing happens. It comes up here and tells you that it's ready to capture the glide slope. Yep. But we're currently holding altitude. And as it gets close enough, it'll automatically detect that it can now capture that. Yep. And there's the runway in front of me. Yep. And we should take more speed out now. So bring us back to about 190 knots here. We're just waiting for it to realise it can go into descent mode. There it goes, it's just caught. Yep. Glide slope. It's starting a descent. I'll bring flaps to 1. As soon as it's settled on this descent, it will lock in at sort of around 900 feet a minute. Just take control, and if you keep following the flight director here, whilst checking out the window to make sure everything looks good, we should just fly a beautiful approach all the way down to touchdown. So, I'll put the gear down to slow us down a bit. Take control with turning off the autopilot. 2 clicks.
2 clicks.
On that one. Yep. You've got it. Perfect. Flaps to 5. Speed is set. Also feel free to use trim. If you're finding having to push down a lot, just give it a bit of trim forward. If you have to pull back a lot, a little bit of trim back. Okay, 7 miles to run, flaps to 15. Alright, 5 miles to go, flaps to 30, landing speed is 146 knots. Set, that's it, we just fly till touchdown. Out of marker. Yep. See how that diamond's perfectly centred? Yeah. That tells you you're right on the centre line. Trust me. Remember, one hand on the throttles from about 100 feet up. Yep. Yep, kill the button there.
Hey?
Yep, press the button there. And then just back to idle. Beautiful. Forward on the yoke when we land. So the wheel settles. Steer with your feet. Both reverses come on. gold, my friend. And when we go past 60 knots, put the reversers down. Tap the brakes for manual braking. Good, that's got control. Give the throttles a little nudge to clear the speed brake. That's enough. It actually didn't come up, so that's interesting. I wonder why not. Okay. And at that point, they would literally just pick the next taxiway and then they'd go and head off. What I like about finishing that kind of way is you get a sense that it really is quite organised and slow. Like you get well organised in advance. You've got plenty of time. Your speed's under control. That's kind of what you'd expect if you in a commercial airliner. Nobody's up there going,
"Oh shit,
what's going on?" It's almost boring.
Yeah. Well, you're basically computer minders, and you do your ground work, you do your homework.
Yeah. Having said that, like when they're coming into Hobart over the 7 Mile Beach, and they fly that by hand, but it still is expected to be well planned. They're always ahead of what's coming next. The speeds are under control, so it's a nice sort of orderly kind of setup. Even, for example, in bad weather when they have a missed approach, that whole thing, all you would have done, if we decided there was a problem and we didn't want to land, all you'd do is press that button. Then that flight director would have prompted you to pull back on the yoke. We'd put throttle on, and we'd go around. It's all a pretty simple kind of procedure, which is no doubt what you want. That was awesome. Thanks.
No, thank you.
You've done really well, but I think you probably get that. You know when you're doing well or not, because I mean the trip over to Flinders was brilliant. Yeah. All right, let's put that to a stop. We wouldn't normally park on the runway, but nobody's here to tell us off. So we just kill the engines.
Beautiful.
Job done. Now the main trick, of course, getting out. Just don't bang your head.